While women are ascending professionally and picking up more slack in that part of the relationship, and that is the economic viability of the household, a lot of men haven't picked up the slack domestically, emotionally, or logistically. A lot of women are saying, okay, if I'm now making all the money and I'm still taking care of the kids in the household, then okay, boss, what the are you bringing to the table? Women's ascent professionally has not been matched by men's ascent domestically. In today's office hours, we discuss women who out-earn their partners, the decline in science funding, and staying motivated while dealing with depression. Question number 1. Our first question comes from Randy from Washington, D.C. They say,
You talk a lot about what happens when men make gobs and gobs of money and how that allows them to be a protector and a provider. But I want to get your perspective. What about women who make gobs and gobs of money? What's your take on that and how they function in their household or in our society? So to give you some context, I'm married to a fantastic man. We're both huge fans of the show. He has a great salary, a great job, a wonderful career. And a few years ago, I started my own business and it's been really successful to the point where there are some years where I out earn him now well into the 6 figures. It's something that works for us in our marriage. We're a team. We have 3 kids. I could literally only do the work that allows me to perform like that financially because he is such a supportive husband and father. But it just strikes me that it's something I haven't heard you talk a lot about. You know, as a boy mom, I love the content that you're putting out there for young men. But I also have a daughter, and I'm curious what perspective you would offer her vis-a-vis income, earning, and relationships.
congratulations. I think we celebrate success, and we should. It sounds like you're doing great. And it sounds like you and your husband are a fantastic team. Everyone's different. That's the beautiful thing about human sexuality. I've always been really drawn to women who are, for lack of a better term, professional ballers. My first wife was the COO of several e-commerce companies, a CPA, MBA, just a super impressive professional. And my girlfriend in between my marriages was a doctor who is a surgical resident. And then my current partner is very competent. But it's sort of a must usually for women with men. Now, part of the reason that I think a lot of marriages are struggling, or one of the things that's creating a problem in marriages is that, one, while women are ascending professionally and picking up more slack in that part of the relationship, and that is the economic viability of the household, a lot of men haven't picked up the slack domestically, emotionally, or logistically. And that is, a lot of women are saying, okay, if I'm now making all the money and I'm still taking care of the kids in the household, then okay, boss, what the fuck are you bringing to the table? So the women's ascent professionally has not been matched by men's ascent domestically. It doesn't sound as if that's a problem for you. It sounds as if you have a great partnership and you respect each other's viability. And it's not like your husband is home playing video games and hasn't worked in 3 years, and you're off working your ass off and then coming home and getting food on the table. So what's not to love about your partnership and the way you're approaching it? I think when things a bit come off the tracks is when man's self-esteem sometimes is more connected to, and in a healthy way, his economic viability. And when he is not doing well, and not only attacks his self-esteem, but also if it's benchmarked against his wife is doing better, which obviously is key because you got to put food on the table, it can make him feel very insecure. And this is the crazy one. They become much more likely to get divorced when the woman starts making more money. Now, is that because the woman is not as attracted to her partner, or because the partner, the male, gets insecure and, quite frankly, becomes just more difficult to live with? I bet the answer is yes. You know, I think you have to do a few things as a man. And one of the first things is take economic responsibility for your household. And I realize how sexist that sounds, but I think in a capitalist society, if you want to be successful as a man, and again, this isn't the way things should be, it's the way things are, you need to be economically viable. And sometimes economic viability and taking economic responsibility for your household as a man is getting out of the way and being more supportive of your partner who happens to be better at this whole money thing than you. And now that more women are graduating from college than men, you're just going to have more and more situations where the woman's background and credentials lend herself to greater economic opportunity. And it is your role as the dude to step up and either fill that gap and be more supportive around the household, root for that person. I think one of the keys to a healthy relationship is really advocating for your partner, really enjoying and appreciating and creating stages that strangers applaud for them. What can I tell you? There's some basic truths here, and that is that gender roles come out instinctively, and that is men are disproportionately evaluated on their economic well-being. And so you have to at least be aware of that. And the dude has to be aware of that and say, well, if I'm feeling insecure, that's natural, but I need to get over it in this age. And I need to lean into the importance of the partnership and economic viability in the household. Anyways, congratulations on what sounds like a great partnership. Support for the show comes from Framer. Building your website has never been easier, especially if you don't know how to code, because with tools like Framer, you can still build a unique and functional website that checks all your boxes. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. That means you have the freedom to build a website that is professional, polished, and uniquely yours. No code and no compromises. Built-in AI will handle the heavy lifting by generating starter layouts and the coding behind the scenes. You'll be able to A/B test your design, set up funnels, and see exactly where people click, all from one place. And once you're ready to publish, Framer handles hosting, blazing fast load times, and SEO while you sit back, put your feet up, and do literally anything else with your time. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your first site for free at framer.com and use code Prof G to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code Prof G. Framer.com, promo code Prof G. Rules and restrictions may apply. Question number 2.
Prof Kevin here from Gainesville, Florida. And over the last 23 years, I've worked in a leading department performing cutting-edge research in the public domain. And the projects are all competitively funded from NIH, NSF, USDA, other government funding agencies. And that's every test tube, every hour of tuition, you name it, all funded by public resources. And all of our data go into public domain. In that time, I've trained 130 undergraduates, 20 graduate students, many postdocs, and dozens of scientists from 18 different countries all came here because we were the place to go. And over the last 10 years, funding just hasn't grown at the cost of science. Now NSF, NIH, and other agencies have been cut to the bone. So the question is this: how do we make national leadership understand that by cutting public science does not just hurt academic science, it destroys our standing in the world and cuts the pipeline of talent to America's technical workforce? Where are our future scientists going to come from? Our priorities are really screwed up.
Kevin, look, what do we do about it? We elect new leaders. I just don't think there's any educating the current administration around university funding and the kind of what is arguably the most successful private-public partnership in the world is the relationship between government, university research, and then how that university research spills over into the private sector and creates shareholder value, which creates income and a great deal of prosperity and taxes and tax revenue, and then the wheel spins. We're better at that than anyone in the world. Under Trump's budget proposal for the 2026 fiscal year, U.S. federal government funding for basic research would fall by more than a third, or approximately 34%, from $45 billion to $30 billion, according to the American Association for the Advancement of Science. You know, whether it's chemotherapy or diabetes drugs or weapons or LED panels or energy efficient technology, the spillover from research funded at universities has been arguably the greatest investment in history. And generally speaking, what I see is a common theme across the Trump administration, and that is, let's have a sugar high now. Let's party with champagne and cocaine and stop making the requisite long-term investments. I'm beginning to believe the government's job, or the key theme that we lack right now on a kind of a basic or a couple of basic levels, is one, the most effective governing doesn't get headlines. That anything that gets news probably isn't very good governance, and it's the hard, boring shit that moves the needle. This is yet another example of government refusing to do their job. What is their job? To think long-term and prevent a tragedy that commons and do the boring, shitty work that doesn't get in some lab somewhere, someone is getting funded to hire the most talented people in the world, who are, by the way, PhD students. And they decide, I'm the best and brightest. I come up through the ranks. I'm identified as a fucking genius and hardworking. Maybe a little strange. The PhD students are a little strange, but strange in a good way. In sum, we're in violent agreement here, boss, and there is no quick fix. other than to find or elect leaders who recognize their job is to make long-term boring investments that don't get press releases, that don't have Fox News and CNN running over here to talk about this to avoid your trips to an island. But think about the hard work that doesn't pay off. What is the job of every elected politician? To plant trees the shade of which they will not sit under. I appreciate the question. Support for the show comes from LinkedIn. We say this all the time on our show, but it bears repeating. Running a small business isn't just a full-time job. It's about a dozen full-time jobs that you rarely, if ever, get to clock out of, at least until you get to the point where you can start hiring the dream team. And if you've made it that far, you already know there's no time to mess around. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. And LinkedIn's new AI feature can even help you write job descriptions and then quickly get it in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And if you decide you want to go to the extra mile to find the perfect candidate, LinkedIn says that promoted jobs get 3 times the number of qualified applicants. It's all these little things that let you find help fast without compromising on quality, which add up to you finally having extra time in the day for, relaxing. Or, knowing my listeners, you'll probably use that extra time to expand your empire even further. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prof. That's linkedin.com/prof to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Support for the show comes from Grunes. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, yada, yada, yada. The truth is that even if you enjoy fruits and vegetables, it can still be tedious to get all the nutrients your body needs. So here's a tip, add Grunes to the mix. Grunes isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some at a fraction of the price. And bonus, it tastes great. All Grunes daily gummy snack packs are vegan, nut, gluten, dairy-free, with no artificial flavors or colors, and they're packed with more than 20 vitamins and minerals, with more than 60 nutrient-dense ingredients and whole foods. And for a limited time, you can try their Gruny Smith apple flavor just in time for fall. It's got the same snackable, packable, full-body benefits you've come to expect, but this time, these taste like you're walking through an apple orchard in a cable-knit sweater, warm apple cider in hand. Grab your limited edition Gruny Smith Apple Gruns, available only through October. Stock up because they will sell out. Get up to 52% off when you go to gruns.co. That's gruns.co, and use the code Prof G. On to our final question from Practical Zone 2476. And I'm going to read the question here. Hello, Professor. You've been open about your struggles with depression, and I thank you for that. Is there any advice you can give people with similar issues about how to not let depression take away your ambition? How did you manage to be a high-performing, depressed person while for many, depression sucks away all of their ability to bring their ideas and dreams to life? Also, can you share some thoughts as a parent about protecting your children from being negatively impacted when you're going through a phase of darkness? Thank you so much for sharing. I'm a bit self-conscious here because I have no domain expertise in psychiatry. So the first thing I would say is it's really important if you're feeling down to try and discern between being depressed or sad and when you're really struggling and it's getting in the way of your life. And the first thing is speak to someone, whether it's someone who has struggled with depression, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a trained mental health professional. But I'm not going to be able to give you a series of things that say, this is how you snap out of depression, because I think what I feel sometimes, I think I'm more prone to anger and depression and sadness than most people, but I'm not sure I would ever be clinically diagnosed as depressed. I have never been on pharmaceuticals. And by the way, I don't in any way disparage or make a judgment on that. I'm not qualified to. I can only tell you what happens with me, and that is I have a tendency to see the glass as half empty. I have trouble forgiving people. I hold grudges. I get angry. I role play. I imagine confrontations with people, not physical confrontations, but verbal confrontations. And I get angry and upset, and small slights bother me. This is a really unattractive, huge flaw in me, and I recognize it. And more than anything, I have trouble forgiving myself. I say something stupid. I do something unkind. I make a bad investment. I make a stupid decision. I handle parenting the wrong way, which I do almost every fucking day. And I just get so upset and angry at myself. I have a difficult time forgiving myself. And that anger, that acid, wears out my veins, my arteries, and I just go numb and get depressed for a few days and go very inward, go very introverted, get kind of listless and see everything very negatively. There's some basic things I do. I tell myself. One, if I'm embarrassed or angry at someone else, I just think, okay, my job, the best revenge I can have on anything that's gone wrong, if I'm angry at the world or angry at anybody else, is to have a fucking amazing life. 2, to be grateful and recognize that if I look at my life, my worst day is better than most people's best days. And also, something I think is a little bit unique about my perspective is I am a rabid atheist, and recognizing I'm going to be dead soon, and so is everyone else that I care about or care about what they think, that they're going to be dead soon. Why would I not allow myself to be happy? Why wouldn't I forgive myself? Why wouldn't I just enjoy this, given that we're all going to be, in the ground sooner than we like? I find that actually quite liberating. That why on earth would I be upset about this? It just doesn't fucking matter. Why would I care what they think? They're going to be dead soon, and so am I. Why would I be embarrassed or angry that I'm not more successful when no one's going to remember me anyways in 50 or 70 years? Why wouldn't I just enjoy my relationships, love people as much as I can, forgive myself, and appreciate all of my blessings? I do have, that's kind of my cognitive behavioral therapy, constantly checking my thoughts, saying, okay, stop it. You're incredibly blessed and fortunate. It's all going to be over soon. Show some empathy. You don't know what's going on with that person. Be kind to yourself. You've done well. You have good kids. You have great relationships. I try to check that shit at the door. An actual sort of practical means of trying to say, I can tell when I'm going dark. I start getting very quiet. I start not wanting to work out. I start seeing everything really negatively. I can sense, okay, I'm going dark. And then I have actual, not cognitive behavioral therapy, but behavioral therapy to try and snap myself out of it. And I call it SCAFA. And it's the acronym for SCAFA. And I'll take you through each of them. When I travel, the first thing I try and do is I try and sweat. I find that sweating resets my system. So that's the first thing I do. C for clean. I try and eat clean. I try to make an effort to not have sugary or fattery or really buttery food, and just try and, if I can, eat at home, and really purposely I do think that sugary, shitty food is not good for you. A is for abstinence, not an abstinence from sex, but an abstinence from alcohol and THC. I love alcohol. I love THC. I think I'm good at it. I think the vast majority of the time I'm able to weave those things into my life in an integrative fashion that enhances my life. But when I feel myself going dark, I just cut that shit out, because I'm worried that I'm banging my sensors with the wrong thing, and I'll end up going even further. Even if it gives me some sort of temporary relief, it'll take me down even further. So abstinence. F is family. I find being around my kids and my partner really helps me. It helps ground me. One, because my kids, generally speaking, or kids can be so awful that it forces you to take yourself out of feeling sorry for yourself and focus on whether or not your kid is going to remember to put on his or her shoes before they go to school. But I find family very grounding. And then the A is for affection. I find human touch and weird things, like I let the dogs on the couch when I'm not feeling well. I'll even say to my kids, I'm not feeling great. Can we watch some TV together? And they know I'm upset, and they're sort of used to it, and they say, sure. And I think my youngest, who's more affectionate, will just sort of naturally flop his legs on mine. I try to be, affectionate with my partner. I find that really helps me, that human touch helps. Nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. Apologies for the word salad, and thank you for the question. That's all for this episode. If you'd like to submit a question, please email a voice recording to officehours@propgmedia.com. Again, that's officehours@propgmedia.com. Or if you prefer to ask on Reddit, just post your question on the Scott Galloway subreddit, and we just might feature it in an upcoming episode. This episode was produced by Jennifer Sanchez. Our assistant producer is Laura Jenner. True Burrows is our technical director. Thank you for listening to the Prof G Pod from the Vox Media Podcast Network.